nobody really talks about exactly how to seal it.
We've moved the chest freezer out onto the port.
Nobody talks about which model.
Huge smart things you can do for a chest freezer.
This guy's the real deal.
We're gonna plug into the faucet hose.
What is the biggest mistake you see people making?
What's going on, friends? It's Kurt here, and on this episode I'm actually going to show you how I built my own Chest Freezer Cold Plunge. So this is a Maytag freezer, chest freezer that I got. It's a 14 cubic foot freezer. That's a chest freezer, but I've actually repurposed it and filled it with water, and now it is a temperature controlled cold plunge that I use for cryotherapy, and I use it 4 or 5, maybe 6 nights a week, and it's been an awesome enhancement to my lifestyle in terms of my physical recovery, my workout recovery, and just adding quality in terms of my sleep. So for my normal protocol, what I try to do is time my plunges so that I don't do them right after I work out. You want a couple hours of inflammation before you start to stunt it with cold exposure. So for me, I just got done lifting about 5:15, 5:30, so it's been 3 hours. So I'm in good shape to go full in and do a full cold plunge. In today's case, I'm actually just gonna jump all in and just go for the whole shebang. Rule of thumb, that's a golden rule, is you always wanna unplug everything on the chest freezer, including the chest freezer itself, before you go in. So I've got three plugs for the actual timer and the ozone generator and the actual fridge. So once I unplug everything, I'm good to go. The last thing I do is I just reposition the actual pump along with the ozone generator pebble. I put those in the corner. I brush my feet off here with this mat to kind of get any debris that's on my actual feet. Take a minute and just go in as easy and quick as possible. This is at 51 right now, 52. It's not that cold, so there's no risk of any sort of frostbite or issues like that for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Generally for me, I usually just play a song on my phone, and then I'll just meditate here out in this environment, and I will just allow myself to sort of experience the calmness that kind of washes over you, if you will, from the cold exposure. So the biggest thing was getting a chest freezer itself. A lot of them are sold out due to COVID-19. A lot of people are buying chest freezers to actually store food. In this case, I found this at a local appliance shop here. We called around for about 2.5, 3 weeks looking for chest freezers. I found one, it had a dent in the back, but functionally it was perfectly fine. I went and inspected it and then bought it on site. Once you get your chest freezer, for most of you, and we talk about this at length in the video, a 14 cubic foot is gonna be about right for most people. Some people might wanna go larger. You're probably not gonna wanna go much smaller. This gives you the great amount of store for water capacity. It's gonna give you a nice balance of not too much water, not too much weight, but give you enough to really work with in terms of your chest freezer and what you want. So the Maytag 14 cubic foot chest freezer, we go over pricing, show you what the options are online later in the video, is what I picked. What you see here is JB water weld. This is epoxy water weld that goes along the seams. We have applied that all throughout the water inside. Before we put water in this, we actually put the seams on the bottom and along the side here. A lot of chest freezers are gonna have seams, and you wanna make sure that they're welded, and a lot of people debate what's the best weld to put in there. If you go to the Chest Freezer Cold Plunge group and you look at the data and what we have in terms of information, JB water weld is one of the best things to apply. It's very, very durable. It's used to seal spas, pools, ponds, and it bonds underwater. So it's a very strong epoxy that works really well and adds a lot of durability. You don't wanna have your chest freezer filled with water and then 6 months down the line, you're rusting through the actual layers, and then your compressor gets rusted and the whole thing fails on you. That's just not what I wanted. I wanted something that could last me 3, 4, 5 years without having any sort of issues. So we put JB water weld in here. What you see here coming in here is an Inkbird timer. So on this shelf here, we have a few things. We have a basic spa filter. This is just something where if some hair came off while I was plunging or something, some sort of debris was in there, I could filter it out of the water. On the actual rack here, we have an ozone generator. Now, with water sanitation, you need to look at 2 things. You wanna look at circulation of water and filtration, and you wanna look at sanitation. When you look at sanitation, there's many things you can do. Some people use hydrogen peroxide, some people use different sort of Epsom salts, things like that. They can be corrosive to the inside of the freezer. I chose the most expensive option, but also one of the most proven ones in terms of what we know as far as water sanitation, an ozone generator. Now, with the ozone generator, this one is called a JED Engineering ozone generator. We're gonna link this in the video description. These guys make a weather boxed one that's specifically designed to be used for these types of chest freezer cold plunges. And what this thing does is it's rated for about 20,000 hours. You really only need to run it about a half hour to an hour a day. I have it on a timer where it's gonna run 30 minutes at midnight, 30 minutes at noon, and it's gonna shut off. What that does is it bubbles up from the bottom here, out of this tube, a pebble of ozone. Ozone essentially will bubble up out of this tube, and in the water, it'll be submerged, and then the spa filter here that we have will actually circulate the water and filter it through the actual thing. But as it's bubbling, the spa filter is gonna run through and actually allow for the sanitation to basically take a full effect throughout the entirety of the water. What we did for the install on this was we drilled a hole for the actual tubing, because there is a gas, an ozone gas that comes through here. And if you look at the top of the freezer, we have some insulation here that just kind of plugs up the hole and keeps things like critters from going in there. But it gives it enough space where we can actually allow the tubing to feed in the ozone. So, generally speaking, for this setup, I have what's called an Inkbird timer, which is temperature controlled timer. That will control the temperature, which I'll show you here in a second. I've got an ozone generator for the water sanitation, and then we have a marine spa water filter pump, which circulates the water. That keeps the water clean, and as long as you're diligent about showering before you go in, making sure you're very clean, and anyone else who uses it is very clean when they go in, and then you wear something like your swimming trunks to kind of keep yourself somewhat covered, then in general, in theory, this will be about 6 months before you have to actually swap out the water. So my friend John here is quite the cold plunge master, and John is gonna walk us through our process here. All right, so John, what do we have here as far as equipment goes? What do we need? Obviously, we did a lot of the pre-work with our Zoom call.
Yes.
So maybe you could just walk us through it.
Big thing to start with, we've got the chest freezer, which right now is a big thing because they're in high demand. They're very hard to find. They're back ordered. So that was just a gem of a find.
So I just found myself a chest freezer, 15 cubic foot. There is some damage on the back of it. You can kind of see down here. I talked with John about this. Doesn't look like there's any damage to the compressor itself. There is no chest freezers anywhere in town.
This exact, or very close to this same exact model, you've got a Maytag freezer here, which is owned by Whirlpool, and these freezers are essentially the exact same chest freezer. You know, it's a major brand, it's a good high quality. Mine has been working for 3 years now. So, and that's even after all the rigmarole and the problems and everything else that it went through, the many iterations. So my belief is that we can get this thing set up and prepared in such a way that we'll do it once for you the right way, and you should get, you know, I'm anticipating 3 to 5 years trouble-free. The other big components were going to be the ozone generator. So you decided to use the JED ozone generator for your water sanitation. That's a big piece. Reland pump and filter. This is a submersible pump and filter that'll go inside the chest freezer, and that creates the circulation as well as the filtration. So clean water, you need 3 things: sanitation, filtration, and circulation. So you've got that down. You've got a temperature controller, and this is just one of those huge smart things you can do for a chest freezer to make sure that temperature is set and you don't have to fiddle with it. So that's going to keep the water at the constant temperature or in the range of temperatures that you set. The mat, the floor mat that will go inside the chest freezer, that's going to help protect the inside floor from getting scratched or nicked. You've got the mats that are still in the box. Those will go underneath the chest freezer to support the bottom. These things aren't designed to hold all that water. Even with the chest freezers that are used for food, those bottoms can still sag. Yeah. So that mat will prevent that from happening. You've got a nice extension cord to run the power out there. We'll plug in the controller, the ozone generator, and the pump filter right here. You also got a nice little shelf unit. That shelf we'll use to set up the ozone generator as well as the temperature controller. Will go on there. And then we've got all the JB water weld, which we're going to use to seal the seams with. These 2-part epoxy putties are one of the best, most reliable, long-lasting, do-it-yourself ways to seal the chest freezer.
Very
So
cool.
this is good stuff. And this is probably the most amount of work. It's labor intensive, but it's fairly simple. If you do it correctly, you got to keep a few things in mind. So we'll do that. And then really the last thing is just to drill a hole in the lid. So we're going to spend most of our time today putting together the sealing of the chest freezer, drilling the hole. We are going to take it outside. It's important it makes it a lot easier to work on the chest freezer if it's actually turned on its side.
Okay.
And we'll put some mats down to protect the chest freezer and keep it in good shape. Outside has got good ventilation, which you do want to have when you're using this stuff. Be sure to work in a well-ventilated area, and that porch out there is going to be perfect.
Nice.
So what we've done so far is we've moved the chest freezer out onto the porch, nice ventilated area, and we've turned it on the side, and we've got it sitting on a mat so that the paint on the side doesn't get scratched up. And what we're going to do now is just take some sandpaper, and we're going to sand around all of the seams where we're going to be applying the JB water weld, and that includes the vertical seam all around the bottom, all around the compressor compartment, and then the horizontal seam that goes between the plastic molding and the top of the metal wall. All right, so when you've got the JB water weld, one of the things to keep in mind is that this stuff starts to harden pretty quickly. So you only want to work in small amounts, maybe about ½ an inch to pull that off to start with, and then put it on just a little bit at a time. When you've got more than one person, when you've got two people, what you can do is have one person actually breaking it off and mixing the putty, and that will help. And they can hand it to the person who's in there applying it, or you can both break off pieces and mix it, and then that helps speed things up. You don't want to break off too much, again, because the thing starts to harden pretty quickly. Besides not preparing the inside sufficiently, the other big concern about the JB water weld is people not completely mixing the product. You see there's two different colors on here. There's an off-white and sort of this looks more of a yellowish or yellow-gray color. And when you mix it all together, it needs to turn to an off-gray. If you've got streaks in there, that's going to cause a problem. It will not harden. And as a matter of fact, it will not seal, and it could be mushy, either on the outside or the inside once you apply it. So getting that stuff thoroughly mixed is extremely important. So we see that inside putty there is all gray. Yep. It really shouldn't be that yellowish color. I'll break off about this much. So when you mix it, you want to flatten it out, roll it up, mush it, and just make sure that you've got no streaks of gray like that in there. It starts to get hard while you're doing this. Roll it into a ball. You probably did this as a kid with Play-Doh. Once you make that little snake out of it, that's what you're going to put into the seam in there.
Okay.
So we can start with, I don't know if there's an easy one to shoot here. We'll just start with this bottom lower corner. You can just put that little snake on there like this. You're going to just start mushing it into the seam. And then you want to get it about ½ an inch on either side of the seam, roughly. And I like to smooth the edges down. That just makes it a little bit nicer transition. It's not as much of a visual thing, but you can get little pockets in there which can get water in it, and I want to avoid that as much as possible. Too thick is okay, too thin could cause problems. So once you've got that in there, you're ready for the next piece.
Nice.
You've kind of specialized in this sort of arena of becoming a sort of subject matter expert. I quickly found out that you're in Austin.
That's right.
And I was like, holy crap, this is so cool. Like I've got this guy and I want to do this exact thing. And you're here. And so I got your book. I read through it. It was really, really well detailed. And I went here and I wanted to ask you, so when you're thinking of picking a chest freezer for your cold plunge, what should we keep in mind at a high level? Like, what are the most important things to consider?
I would say that the very first thing is, if you're, depending on what your budget is, you got to figure out your budget.
Okay.
And if you've got it in the budget to buy a new chest freezer, that is going to be your best option to have it last the longest. New chest freezers you can get cheap or free. And just there's a lot of things about picking out a used chest freezer that you want to make sure before you buy one. Otherwise, it's going to be, or could be, just a huge waste of money because they can die a lot faster. But if we're looking at it from a new perspective, the most important thing I can say is two things. Number one, pick a major brand. You want to stick, like in the U.S., it would be like Frigidaire, Whirlpool, Kenmore.
Okay.
Those are going to be the big ones. So if
And
you
these are
see,
top three that came up
yeah,
on Google.
and you want to exactly you want to find a company that makes other things that you've heard of. I've heard of Whirlpool washing machines and Whirlpool refrigerators, and the
And
same thing with
Whirlpool
Frigidaire.
tubs. They make
Yeah,
water tubs,
exactly.
you know?
Right, and so so those little like Magic Chef or Insignia, it's like those are just knockoffs, and they're not
Okay.
built as well, which kind
Okay.
of leads to the second thing, which is you want to make sure that you get one that's got a white interior. If
Okay.
it's a bare metal interior, it's not going to be as strong, and it's going to have way more problems down
So
the
you're
line.
talking about how this one is painted white on the inside.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, a lot of people think that it's plastic, but in fact, what it is, it's not just aluminum that's in there. The walls are actually made of steel, or at least a steel alloy, and they're not made of aluminum. And that paint that's on there is an enamel-based coating that's applied at the factory. So it's a pretty heavy-duty coating that's on there. So, and I know that because I removed mine as
Of
one of
course you did.
yeah, but that paint is pretty good. The problem with the aluminum interiors, number one, is that they're very flimsy. I mean, I had just a basic chest freezer that we were using for its intended purpose, food, and only after about 6 months of using it, we didn't need it anymore. We went to sell it, and I found a 2-inch crack or a split in the floor. The other issue with the aluminum is that that stuff is not pure aluminum, and so you've got impurities in there that also will rust.
That's
So yeah,
interesting.
yeah, but I've seen other people's pictures, after a year and a half that they posted their chest freezers, and I just noticed the floors are all mangled and are bent and dented. So yeah, that can cause problems,
So
and that
let's
could also cause problems with the seal. I mean, once you seal the seams, that movement on the floor can cause issues too.
so I'm 160 pounds, 5'8". I'm thinking 14 cubic feet is like a good
Absolutely.
spot for me. Budget,
Yes, absolutely.
I think budget wise, like, I could go as high as 1500. I think I can keep it below that based on what I've read in your book. So then really any of these, like the Kenmore, the Frigidaire, the Whirlpool, you think would be very fine options, even to make a Maytag maybe?
I would check to make sure the Maytag has again the white interior, but Maytag is a good well-known
It
brand.
looks like it does.
Yep,
But
it looks
yeah.
like it does. Yeah, yeah,
So you want to look at the inside, make sure it's white and painted like at the factory. And then what I see some people do 7 cubic foot. That kind of seems a little small to me.
yeah. I would not recommend that. Even for the tiniest person, that's not a great idea. Those 7 cubic foot chest freezers only come with the bare metal interior, so they're
Oh,
not
okay.
going to really be that strong.
Okay. Got it. So if you were me and you want to get a 14 cubic foot chest freezer, would you probably go to Google Shopping? This is kind of like my go-to if I'm just like, I don't know where to look for anything.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a great place to start, and you'll find what I really encourage folks to do, or would encourage you to do, is to look locally. You might also check with plumbing supply places, because the problem with the big box stores is that you can't really get in touch with anybody that really knows what's going on about anything. So in the since the pandemic thing has been happening, a lot of people are trying to buy chest freezers and can't get a hold of chest freezers, and the people at Best Buy or Lowe's have no idea when they're coming in. So I found a local plumbing supply place here in Austin, and I called that guy, and he goes, well, I don't know. Let me call Whirlpool and find out. So he called Whirlpool, and like 10 minutes later, he called me back and goes, yeah, I can get one for you in July. So, it's like, oh, cool. Local business. The guy knows what he's doing. He's got the direct phone to Whirlpool, with his supplier there. So, so that was awesome.
I don't really want to go look local. I just want to ship the damn thing to my house. I want to be,
Right. Yeah.
I'm
If you,
lazy.
right. Yeah. If you just want to ship it from your house, what I would suggest is, just again, stick to major stores that have a solid reputation of following through on what they say they're going to do.
Got it. So,
But
okay.
avoid the drop shippers, though. Avoid those guys, because then you're going to just be with the middleman who can't give you customer service, and the returns are going to be probably a little harder. So because I haven't taken a survey on this, but this is the reason why I decided to go down and buy it local, because I went through 3 chest freezers before I got one that wasn't dented or smushed or bent
Oh, okay.
after I opened it up. And so, and I actually was opening up there at the store because I said, look, I want to do this one time. I don't want to have to make 3 trips back. So we opened 3 boxes that were, I mean, a couple of boxes were clearly somebody dropped this off of the forklift. You know, it's like it's just a giant dent in the box. So you want to avoid that. The only other real thing would be just the location of the compressor. Whirlpool. So most compressor compartments have a little rectangular box that kicks out. So like if you're looking at it, a chest freezer from the side, there's a kick out, a rectangular kick out where the
Right
cover,
here?
right in there. Yeah, exactly. That's it. So that goes all the way from the back wall to the front wall. What's unique about the Whirlpool is that they have an angled compressor compartment that takes up about half the space as the Frigidaire. So if you
Oh,
want just a tiny bit of extra leg room, you can extend your feet you got another 8 inches in the Whirlpool. The chest freezer is not like a hot tub where you're going to be lounging in it for extended periods of time. It's more of just a few minutes in, a few minutes out. You know, optimizing comfort is not the purpose.
now, okay. What are the other big items that you need to order when you make a chest freezer?
In terms of like the big major items, there's a lot of little miscellaneous things, but
Okay.
some of that is going to depend upon what your tolerance for and time allotment is for doing maintenance.
So for me, I want to just buy a chest freezer, have it on some sort of timer outside. For the most part, I just want it to be at 50 degrees at like 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. every night. And I want the water to be clean. I'll rinse off before I go in. And that's about all I want to mess with.
So you're going to look at basically in terms of hardware or other electrical components. There's going to be really 2 big things and maybe 2 little things that you're going to need. The first big thing is going to be an ozone generator, and
Okay.
there's a lot of different options for water sanitation, but in my opinion, the ozone was like the thing that you had to do the least amount of maintenance with. You know, I looked at chlorine and I thought, man, I don't want to be a chemist. There's just going to be too much involved with that, all the testing and the balancing, the upping, the downing, and all that kind of stuff. So the problem with ozone generators, and I learned this firsthand, was that the typical ozone generator, and I bought one for a hot tub. I called probably a bunch of different hot tub stores and finally found this lady in California who had actually worked for one of the major ozone generator manufacturers before she started her own hot tub company, and had a lot of great conversations with her. And so I ordered this ozone generator, and I found out very quickly that it didn't work with the pump that I was using, which was
Okay.
not a hot tub design pump. And
Okay.
so what I learned was that you actually have, if you buy a hot tub ozone generator, you have to have a hot tub pump to power it,
Okay.
right? Or to create the correct amount of pressure and suction to mix that ozone. Otherwise, it doesn't do anything. And
Okay.
so I thought, well, I got this ozone generator. I need to buy a hot tub pump, and then I need to buy a hot tub filter. And then how do I plumb that into the chest freezer? So that sent me down this huge Pandora's box. But since then, I've learned this a much more simple way, and that is to find an ozone generator that has a built-in pump. And
Okay.
so I found this company. I was thrilled to pieces. I cannot tell you how excited I was to find this company called Jed Engineering.
I see it
And
on your site here.
yep, there it is. Yep, they've been around for a long time. They're in California. I had a number of very, uh, great conversations with these guys. They really know what they're doing. They know their stuff. Just their customer service is just impeccable. And so I ordered one of those things, and it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. So that's the
Nice.
ozone generator that I recommend. It is designed to last for about, I think it's 20,000 hours. And
Okay.
the great thing is, if you're just a little proactive about if you rinse yourself off before you get in there, you're not getting in there all sweaty after a workout. You can put this thing on a timer, and you'll need to figure out the timer. That's just one of the minor things you'll need to buy. It's just you can buy a fancy one, or you can buy just a simple mechanical appliance timer
Okay.
that you can plug this thing into. I only run mine 30 minutes a day,
Nice.
and my
Nice.
water stays crystal clear for 6 months, 5 to 6 months.
Wow.
The only thing, there's no smell, there's no odor, there's no particulates. It's just clean. It's great water.
Well, I'm going to buy this ozone generator then. It sounds like that's my move, man.
Yeah, awesome.
Um, okay. So I got to figure out the measurements. I'll double check those. And then it sounds like I'm in good shape as long as I get clear on who I'm buying it from. Well, I'm in Austin. I mean, I kind of feel bad because the people that are watching this channel, most of them are not in Austin. So I don't, I'm thinking
Right.
like, a guy who has whirlpools right now that you can get in July, I guess, huh?
Well, I know a guy who's got Frigidaires. But again, what they can do is go through the phone book and just look through, or phone book shows you how old I am, right? So just Google local plumbing supply, and
Okay.
if you can find somebody who's a local plumbing supply or local appliance guy, so not a big box, typically those guys can get those chest freezers, and you'll probably find the one that'll come up because that's exactly what I did. It's probably, and I called a few Ferguson. Yeah, there it is. Those are the guys I called.
Ferguson
So
Plumbing Supply. Okay.
yep. So they were super helpful, but they can get the Frigidaires, and I think, well, I talked to them 2 weeks ago, but they can get them in. They were saying like the end of July, maybe beginning of August.
Got to be expensive to ship a chest freezer. You know, that's 14 cubic feet. I mean, these things are not like lightweight, and they're huge.
Right. Right.
Um,
Yeah. Most of these companies are offering whatever that price is you see up there. That includes shipping.
yeah, yeah.
So
So I think I just need to kind of talk to them. I mean, do you, so the Whirlpool you said kind of has that advantage where you could kick your feet out even more with the
yes.
model. So that's kind of cool.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
as far as durability, you know, assuming that they're both good sellers, there shouldn't really be much of a difference in like the selection on that choice.
None at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Or very little.
Okay. Gotcha.
Both very highly rated.
And I know in your book, you really went into detail and you kind of give people a bunch of options based on their budget and what they want to invest in to do the filtration. So you can do like ozone generators, kind of if you have the money and you want just, you know, something that's just going to run and take care of it, it seems like that is your best option for your money and time.
Well, yeah, and I want to make a clear distinction too, just to make sure. And I know this is a fine point, but the umbrella is clean water, and that entails three things. And sanitation is one of those things. But the other two things you must have are circulation and filtration.
Okay.
And the ozone generator will sanitize the water, but it doesn't circulate or filter. And so you will need to get a separate pump and filter, which is the other big purchase.
Okay. Gotcha. So this alone needs the water to be circulated and kind of pumped through a filter from another device in the chest freezer.
Correct. Typically, what I recommend is using an aquarium pump and filter that's built into one unit, so you don't have two separate things. And if you find one that's submersible, you just put it right into the cold plunge, and you just run that cord over the side. I wouldn't drill an extra hole for that. You know, the little tiny gap that's in between the top of the wall and the lid from that cord is minimal, and it's, you know, that's just the easiest way to do it.
Okay. And then do you drill a hole into the side of the wall to kind of like run the tubing, or do you recommend just going over the top, or?
That's a good question. So I have seen two people drill holes through the side, and that makes me a little nervous because I'm not really sure where in each chest freezer all those chiller lines are.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could reasonably guess that if you plug it in and you can kind of tell that there's less heat. The chest freezer gets very hot when it's dissipating the heat, and that's or chilling down on the inside. It gets rid of the heat through the external walls. That's how it works. And you can kind of feel where it's not as hot. And so it might be a safe bet to go through the wall. However, for me, going through the lid was the most risk-free option, because other than the light, there's nothing else that's in the lid except for just insulation. And
That makes
where
sense.
that one cable runs to where the power cord is, don't do it on that side, do it on the opposite side.
Yeah.
So I just drilled a hole in there, and with that tubing, it's flexible, and opening the lid and closing the lid doesn't really cause any or much movement at all.
Okay.
Just on the tube, so it's not pulling on any of the connectors. So I did go through the floor. I drilled 2 holes in the floor. That was when I was using the hot tub pump, and that entailed a gigantic amount of work because the chest freezer had to be elevated on a platform. And then there was about 14 feet of plumbing, and it was valves. It was a huge hassle.
Got it. Okay. So you said we need also a filter, right? A filter and a pump?
Yep. And if you buy one of those, everything that's built into one thing, if you go to click on products on Amazon, the one I found that has worked very well, and a lot of other people have been using this as well, is the Marine Land. It's an aquarium pump and filter, and it works perfectly for a 14 cubic foot chest freezer.
This one right here?
So, yep. So the one on the left, actually to your left there, that box, the Marine Land, that's the pump housing, and it comes with that white filter that you see on the right.
Okay.
So I would order one of those, and then the replacement filter. I like to have a spare filter on hand, and I just trade them out each time. So that
Okay.
way I can clean one and put one immediately back in and dry it. That just seems to prolong the life of the filters a little bit.
Does
But
this does this sit in the water? It sits in the
it
water,
sits in
right?
the water. It's completely submersible. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And that's also something you want to unplug before you get in.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think I'll have like a connection between the GFCI outlet outside because I'm going to put this on my deck. There's a little
Perfect.
overhang, so there's just a lot of
Nice.
space there. And then I'll just wherever the connection for the electricity is, I'll have I'll have like a disconnect there, and then all the plugs will come
Well,
off like a.
what I would suggest and what the electricians suggest is that switches are still have a potential for arcing.
Okay.
So what you want to do is just plug everything into. If you've already got the GFCI outlets on
Mhm.
your outdoor patio, all you
Yeah.
need to do is just get an outdoor extension or not a power strip that has 3 plugs in it or 3 or
Yeah.
more, and then just unplug that whole thing, and that'll
Yeah.
turn everything off. That'll turn off the ozone generator, the pump, and the temperature controller,
Uh huh.
which is the next big piece that you need to order.
In the
Uh,
freezer, right itself. Yeah, it'll be plugged
yeah,
in as
yeah.
well.
Besides the freezer, yeah.
So I want to
So I
get.
think I said there were
Oh, go
Yeah, I
ahead.
think I said there were 2 big pieces, but I think I said there were 2 big things you need to order, but there was actually 3. So the ozone generator and the pump filter.
This one will come with its own filter already in it. The Marine Land.
That is, yes, that is correct.
Okay, got it. Cool. So then I'll just add one, and then I have a spare.
Right?
Okay, and then so we've got the pump, the filter, the ozone generator. I'm gonna add this, and then what else? We need welding stuff, right? JB Weld, you recommend?
Yeah, JB Water Weld, correct.
That's up here. And this, you said this, you need about how many tubes do you typically go through when you're doing sealing for a 14-foot cubic chest freezer?
That's a good question, and it's going to depend specifically on the chest freezer. So each chest freezer has a different amount of seams, and what
Okay.
you'll find on this the JB Water Weld there, that 2-ounce stick, it's an epoxy putty, and depending on how you apply it, if you apply it according to the manufacturer's directions, 1 tube will cover about 16 inches worth of seams.
Okay.
So, and that's linear inches. So if you have my whirlpool, I think I took about, and this will probably be different than the number I say in the book, but I think I used about 15 tubes. However, I've also helped people build or seal their chest freezers, and they've used way more than that. So maybe 20 tubes, because they just wanted to be absolutely certain that nothing went wrong. And it also depends on whether you want to seal that upper seam too. So the seams that are underwater, absolutely you need to seal those with the JB Water Weld or the epoxy putty. If you look at the seam that is on the inside between the top of the wall and the lid, there's that plastic molding that goes all the way around.
Uh-huh.
That seam, that wall ends right underneath that molding, that white plastic molding that you're showing. And
Got it.
so splashing water can get in there. So I think it's a great idea to seal that seam.
Just seal that as
For,
well.
yeah,
Okay.
just to seal that as well. And that right there is going to take probably 8 tubes. So if you figure 8 feet to a side, add another 2 feet, 9, 10, at about 12 feet. So that's 144 inches. Divide that by 16. Shoot. Yeah, don't ask me to do math in my head.
It's going to be less
But
than 12, but it'll be like around 8 or 9, I guess.
right, yeah. So yeah, right around another 8 tubes. That sounds about right. So yeah, another 8 tubes to 8 or 9, exactly 9. By the way.
Okay.
So yeah, I would order about 25 tubes. You know,
25 tubes.
yeah, right around there to have it, just to have an extra one. It's good to have one on hand if something, you need one.
Update that. Limit has a 5 per customer.
5. Okay.
All right. Well,
Well, you might need to make that trip to Lowe's, or if you just do it on if you do separate orders. I didn't realize they were doing that on there.
I'll just pick them up. I mean, once I start getting them, it'll be easy to grab more of them over the next
Right.
several weeks. Because the
Right.
big thing is finding this chest freezer and getting that shipped.
Yeah, you've got some time. You've got some time before that thing comes in. So
Okay. So I've got the filter, we've got the JB Weld, we've got the pump, and the ozone generator. Are we missing
yes.
anything else?
Yes, the one
Oh,
last major thing is going to be the temperature controller. This is so on the most simple level, you can just unplug it in and unplug it, but really that's not simple because you've got to keep an eye on that thing.
no,
Oh, I forgot, I got
no,
busy, the giant ice cube again, right?
no.
So yes, so the temperature controller. Now, some people will also want to put it on a timer, but you know what? With the Inkbird is like a $40 temperature controller. There is no reason to spend 10 or 15 or $20 on a decent timer when you can get a temperature controller for like just $20 more. So the Inkbird is a great option for an entry-level temperature controller. And the great thing about this is that it actually is not based on time.
Okay.
It's not based on the ambient outside temperature, and these are all variables. How much heat does your body generate? What this thing is going to do, that sensor that's there, that metal thing on to the right of the actual controller,
Right here.
goes in the water. Yeah, so yeah, that thing there. And what that does is it's regulating or calibrating based on the actual water temperature.
And you set a
So
range.
when you set a range, so you set your target temperature. Say for you, it's like 50 degrees.
Yep.
So you can make a choice. You can say, well, I'm going to set my target at 48 and set the increment at 2. So that way it'll range between 48 to 50. Or you can say, if you're okay with between 50 and 52, set that 2-degree Fahrenheit range, and that way it'll shut off the chest freezer if it's between that range. And as soon as it hits your upper limit, whether that's 50 or 52, it kicks it on. And that way it's a set it and forget it.
Will it be
And
constantly turning on and off all day long
Uh,
then?
not constantly. Those chest freezers are very well insulated, and
Interesting.
if it's not in the now, if you have it in the outside, if it is exposed to direct sunlight, that is going to make it run more frequently.
Mhm.
But the chest freezers are really designed to cycle on and off.
So Inkbird timer. So we got the timer, we got the pump, we got the ozone generator, and we got sealant, and then we've ordered the freezer. Have we covered our bases?
Yes. You've covered all the major items. There's going to be several other small things that you'll need to get. There's a company called a website called greatmats.com, and go to the I think it's 3/8 of an inch. So basically, what you'll do is you'll just get enough of those mats. I think you'll need probably either 4 or 6. I'm trying to remember if you need 6 or 8 of them. The Whirlpool is about 4 feet wide, or you might need 9. It just kind of depends on the area that you're in. If you order enough of those to cover the floor, once you put them all together, you'll set the chest freezer on there, let it sit for a few minutes, and then take it off, and you'll see where you need to cut out the feet.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And then it'll support the bottom very nicely. And that is one other thing that I like about the Whirlpool, is that it has the feet itself are molded out of the same piece of metal as the rest of the bottom of the chest freezer.
So you said, are you putting tiles then, like these tiles, or a
Yes.
roller
Yep.
mat?
I would definitely use the tiles, and you don't need the real super, like the 1440 per tile. That sounds like that's a way more expensive tile than what you probably need. If we could find the ones that are kind of in the $199 per square foot and below.
Like this? Is this kind of?
Yeah, I think that looks more like what you want there.
And you just need like basically what, 6 of them? 3 by 3?
I think you're probably going to need 9. Let's go back to are you going to order the Whirlpool or the Frigidaire, do you think?
I think I'm going to order the Whirlpool because you just said
Okay.
it seems like it's easier to work with.
Yeah, I think so. It is. So for what we're doing here, definitely. So I would just click on that Whirlpool, and what that'll do is pull up. Well, actually, I just saw the measurements there, but it should pull up some specifications. 48 inches wide. So that it's 4 feet wide by basically 3 feet deep. So you would basically need, 4. You would need 12 those are 1 foot wide.
I think they're 2 by 2.
Oh, 2 by 2. Perfect.
I think they were 2 by 2.
Yeah, so basically what you would do is create just 4 of those. So that would give you just a few extra inches on the width. Now, if you wanted to order 2 additional mats to kind of have like a little landing pad or a standing pad on the outside of the chest freezer,
Okay.
some people like to do that.
The freezer itself is not sitting flat on the mat itself. We cut out the leg holes. So what I'm going to do is I've got these composite shims, and I'm going to work through the flooring and just place them under the floor to support it, and just see if we can but actually get this thing so that it's got support across the flooring wherever it needs to be. So I plan on keeping this thing here for a while, at least a year from now, if not longer. So I want to put support under the actual flooring to kind of reinforce the weight of the water, because these chest freezers aren't designed to actually get that much weight in them. So this will give us a little bit more reinforcement.
So we got timer, we got the flooring pad.
So we will need an outdoor rated power strip that has at least 3 outlets on it.
Something
anything
like this
that's
maybe, or
yeah, anything that's rated outdoor will be fine. Well, you don't want the one with the stake.
man, this is a little harder. Maybe outlet power switch,
Yeah.
outdoor wireless remote. No, I don't need that.
Weatherproof. There you go.
Which,
Yeah, that one says weatherproof. The triangular one that looks kind of funky.
yeah, I don't know. It's got some sort of
What's
like
the
remote control on it.
remote
To turn it
control?
on and off.
Oh, I see. I see. Yeah, you really don't need that remote control thing.
Right. Sometimes
And
they
it's got a very short. It's got a short extension cord on it, which I'm not too thrilled about.
yeah, the plug isn't
Well,
very
so
long.
here's the other option, and this is what other folks have done. If you want to just get a like a little plastic box to put everything in, or if you want to have like a little build a shelf, or buy a little shelf to put everything on. I've seen people build like little utility shelves where if you have like a little shelf to put things on, because the other thing you will need to do with the JED 203 is it does need to be mounted on something vertically. So whether that's a piece of wood simply leaned up against something, or whether it's like a little shelf that you can either tie it to with wires, or put screw. It's a wood shelf you could screw something into.
So it's going to be mounted to it, screwed into something, or can you zip tie it to like a small little wire rack or something?
You could easily zip tie it. Yeah, you sure could. That's a real simple way to do it. I've also seen people will get like that heavy duty
glue it to the
Velcro.
side of the freezer?
I wouldn't attach it to the side of the freezer, because the outside of the freezer gets really hot, and the heat that generates is probably not good for the longevity of any other kind of electrical equipment.
That makes sense. Wire shelf.
And
Okay.
you can and the top of the ozone generator, the casing that comes with it has 2 holes, and they're designed to have screws. If you put 2 screws into the wall, you can put it in and then just pull it down, and it'll stay there. Those holes for the screws could also be have wire ties inserted. So if you want to use a metal shelf rather than a wood shelf, it would be easy to wire tie, or just get some wire and wrap it around. That could be done as well.
Okay. Are we pretty covered here? Do we still have stuff? There's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, probably the only other thing you're going to need is mainly is going to be just that step. Everything else will be pretty much for the the drilling the holes and that sort of thing. And those are tools that I have that I can help you with. So there's no need for you to go out and buy extra tools or anything to get the hole.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. With regard to that, we're going to need probably just a few little miscellaneous things to properly seal that hole and to make a nice. We're going to sort of hand make a grommet out of a couple of PVC plugs for the hole that's going to go in the top. So we'll need to get a couple of PVC plugs. Yeah, there it is. It's on the left next to the red ones.
That one
it's
right
the
there?
U450. Yeah. Now, what you're going to want to get, though, is not the 3/4 inch. We're going to need the 1 inch. And actually, I'm going to double check that, because it's been a while since I've built this thing. And how much are they charging for that? $5? Oh, no.
3/4.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's about 6 times more than what it really should be. But again, I got them from Lowe's. I mean, if you want just the convenience of having it in, the thing I would need to double check though is the size, and that's in the book. I don't know if you can pull that up real quick and look over in the section where it talks about installing the ozone generator. And I've got an entire video on this also that walks through that entire installation process. But in there, it actually specifies.
Equipment needed: 2 1-inch threaded PVC plugs. The outer diameter of the thread and the plug need to be the same as the hole. So
that's it. Yeah, just get two of those, and then you'll need to order just a bit of like rubber foam insulation that we'll just kind of shove in there around the ozone tubing to help keep dust and critters and stuff out of there.
I can go to Lowe's and get that if I need to.
Yeah, Lowe's would be the place to go. Those guys have it there.
So they're gonna have openings on both sides.
One side will be closed, and then one side will be open, and then we're going to drill a hole through the open part, or the closed part. So we're going to drill a hole through that top part that's there.
So would this one work right here?
You know what? Without seeing what's underneath that, the underneath part of that needs to be open. Otherwise, that would make drilling the hole much, much harder.
Yeah. You know, I'm gonna order them and I'll look at them.
Okay.
And
All right. So
so
see, so let's do a search also
foam, right?
for foam or rubber pipe insulation, foam rubber pipe insulation, or just foam
Right.
pipe insulation.
Foam.
And we're looking for the thing that looks like a sleeve that goes around a piece of pipe. It's maybe 6 feet long. That's it right there. The K-Flex USA. Go down 2. There you go. Right
That
there.
one right there.
Use that to shove down into the gap that's created between the top and the bottom of the lid.
And then you use JB Weld to seal the gaps then, or
I do not because that, well, you could. I just leave mine loose, and I did that basically for maintenance. If I ever decide I wanted to clean it or wipe it off, or if dust gets in there, I just found it really easy to remove those things, to pull them out. Because I would say we could easily seal the top one to the top of your chest freezer. Sealing the one that's inside is a little more problematic because the inside of the lid is a piece of plastic that's movable, and it's not. You can't really easily seal it to that because of the fact that it moves.
okay.
And so that plastic is only attached around the outside edges. It's not attached in the middle.
Man, it's like there's a lot of steps in here that no one talks about, and you know that their chest freezer is probably going to fail on them in a month or 2.
Right.
They're just like, I got water, I got a chest freezer, I'm going to jump in.
Right.
Man, we're going to get I'm going to get the mat here. I'll get I'll look for the Whirlpool. I'll get the Jed ozone generator. And then in our cart, we have $181 for the plug, the foam, the outdoor smart timer for the ozone generator power, the electric timer for the freezer. That's Wi-Fi controlled. We'll have to add more JB Weld. So that'll be like another 20 cans of that. And then we have, this was the filter and then the actual pump with the filter.
Right. Yes.
Man, we missing anything, John?
So so we've got the power. You got where you're going to put it. We've got the chest freezer selected. We've got a sealant picked out. You really don't need to put a liner into the Whirlpool because that's got the white interior. We have a way to control the temperature. We've got water sanitation. We've got a pump. So we've got filtration and circulation and sanitation. Those are our 3 things there. And then we're supporting the bottom. And let's see. We've got the extension cords. You've got GFCI built in. We've got the appliance timer. Are you in an apartment?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have an external faucet or hose bib that fits a regular garden hose outside somewhere?
Not here. We're going to have to fill up buckets or, find a creative way to load water in. Okay. So yeah, there's a couple of ways to go about this. So the first way, the most simple way to do that would be just to fill up buckets, but that's also going to take a lot of, we'll need a bucket brigade, invite all your friends over, have a pizza party, because that's a real painful, slow way to do that. There are faucet adapters, so you will need a garden hose. Okay. And then what you'll need to do is get a faucet adapter that can attach to your kitchen sink. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky and where you might need to go down to Lowe's for this, is because unless you buy one that's maybe more universal, not all kitchen sinks have the same size threads on them. Right.
All right, so filling up the freezer, we're going to plug into the faucet.
We're going to plug into the faucet, a hose, so we'll turn on, but we need to find an adapter that fits this thread size here. Okay. To the garden hose. Okay. So when you go down to Home Depot, you want to take this little piece with you. Okay. And then when you get back, just be sure to put this back in. Green side is up, gasket goes in, and then it just screws on.
And I went to Home Depot and just found an adapter that I've got in here now that's actually really hard to screw out with a rubber gasket. And this adapter can then be connected by the garden hose or whatever hose you're going to use, and you can completely seal the water connection going to the hose. So that's how you get the hose. We're going to go get the hose and load the water and go from there.
What about equipment you need for draining it out? I guess that will come with the
draining it
hose.
out. Yeah, so that garden hose will be the thing to use also for the draining. And there is a drain on the outside of the chest freezer, and the chest freezer does come with an adapter that you just push. It's a push adapter. You push into the chest freezer, and then it's got a thread for a garden hose on the outside of it, and you just attach that hose to it and just run it off your balcony or wherever it needs to go. Um,
Be raining down on the neighbors. I'm on the top floor here, so there's gonna be
yeah. Okay, that'll be fun. Actually, one other thing occurred to me. It might be, even though the white metal interior chest freezers are much stronger than the other ones, and we are supporting the bottom. If you want to get a wet area floor mat to put inside the chest freezer, that will just help protect the bottom. Again, I mean, you're not going to be getting in there with shoes on or anything like that, but that can just protect it from, maybe there's a little bit of gravel or something that got in there by accident somehow, and when you step on that gravel with your foot, that scratches the thing, and you got rust. So that wet area floor mat will help protect the floor from those little, incidental or accidental debris that might get in there.
Let's take a look. Something like
they're just like that, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, the one above it that says the 24 by 30, like that's the style you want. That's got the holes in it. You probably want something the 24 by 36. You might. Well, that actually might work.
This first one wasn't too bad. Maybe just get 2 of these, or because it's about 4 feet though.
Right. Yeah, it's almost 4 feet. So you know what? And that's going to work. That would actually pretty much work. So the whirlpool on the inside is going to be 40 inches wide, but you need to subtract out about 11 inches, 9 to 11 inches for the compressor. So really, we're looking at 31 inches. So if it's 36 inches wide, 36 and it's 21 inches. 21 3/4 inches deep front to back. So a 2 foot by 3 foot would be fine.
All right, so one of the things we ordered was a rubber mat, and this is to protect the floor. So when pebbles or dust from the actual, walking on my deck to the plunge, when I get into the plunge, I don't want to be pushing those against the paint on the bottom of the flooring to kind of scrape it up and cause breakage in the paint and eventually have rust. So this rubber mat will keep a buffer, and it will provide protection on the floor so that if debris gets in there, it'll just kind of sit in these sections, and then when I clean it out, I can just take this out and then drain it, and then I can scrape out whatever's there without having it being pushed around all the time while I'm plunging.
Okay, that's the mat. And then you did mention a fishnet, right? Like fine.
Yeah, if you want to just get a little fishnet for scooping out hair or skin flakes, anything that might be floating around in there. And then you might consider, depending on when you go for maintenance, another maintenance item would be just a nice microfiber cleaning cloth. You might already have that on hand. Depending on how what your tolerance is for cleaning chemicals, white vinegar or hydrogen peroxide are 2 really simple ways to clean that. Or you can use any green cleaner, once every 5 to 6 months when you drain it. You don't have to get fancy. It doesn't have to be anything abrasive or super toxic or anything. As far as like the functional part of it, I think we've got 100% of everything we need to make this thing work.
I'm going to think about the outer protection, because I know like up, downtown, we get these real hard downpours from time to time.
Right. Yeah, I would say that if you just get just a simple basic tarp, if you want to cover it with that would be the most simple way to go. But it's not going to form fit very well. I don't know if you might consider, as soon as you start looking at custom barbecue stuff, your price goes up, because those guys are like really high end things. But you might be able to find a barbecue cover that would be for a large barbecue pit that would fit.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think who else might have like custom covers. Most of the folks that I've talked to or have reported on this sort of thing that are keeping it outside, just put tarps over it.
That makes sense, because I feel like with the compressor and the hinges, it's going to be hard to cover everything from the elements.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, and I can do that. That's not too big of a deal. So awesome. Okay. I'm excited, man. Thank you so much. This is
awesome.
This is going to be fun. Well, next stage, we'll have to get this ordered. I'll let you know what I order.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Keep me posted.
I'll figure out the whirlpool, and then I'll get the faucet here sorted out, so that we can you can just let me know what you think as far as a hose option.
Right. Yeah, you can shoot me some pictures on that and let me know what you got in there, and we'll figure that piece out. Again, worst case scenario, we'll get a pump that you just start filling up the bathtub, and you have that pump hose pumping water from the bathtub into the chest freezer with a
Oh,
garden
man.
hose. Yeah, that's what I did. I had one of my, I think my second or third version. I was in an apartment. I had the chest freezer sitting in the middle of my living room. Definitely a bachelor thing. I did not have a girlfriend at that time to veto that setup. But yeah, I was pumping water from my bathtub into the chest freezer. Then, so yeah, it worked.
You're awesome, man.
So before I fill the walls, I'm gonna actually go in here and I've wiped down everything with a paper towel and some water, and I'm gonna vacuum this last bit of dust and debris so that there's just nothing left in here. So when the water comes in, it doesn't give me a bunch of sediment and have it already in there.
Like, I just learned how to build a chest freezer, and
Right.
this guy's the real deal. Like, it's not just a chest freezer that's going to like fail on me in 4 weeks, but it's actually going to last me,
Right.
many years. So
Right.
that's cool.
Yeah, I want to think long term. I think one of the questions that you actually had in that the thing that you sent me was what is the biggest mistake you see people making?
Yep.
And that is they're not thinking long term.
Yeah.
And they set that short term instant gratification, and you know this from what you do too. I mean, it's like people are thinking short term, they want the instant gratification, and that sets everything else into motion. That's going to just be disaster, just problem. And then you've got not only to fix that problem, you've got to fix the ripples of that problem.
You're like going down these Pandora boxes of like fixing the problem that was caused by the problem, and there's more problems.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And I did that. I did that. I went there. So it's like, I know it's like, and so that's probably the most frustrating thing for me is like when we have the knowledge that's there for people and then they choose to ignore it, and then they, set it into motion, and it's like, and then they come back saying, oh, what can I do to fix this? It's like, well, let's move forward. Yeah.
The way I went about it, I was looking on YouTube, and there's a bunch of people that have done chest freezers on YouTube. There's like probably a half dozen pretty good videos, but nobody really talks about exactly how to seal it. What do you use to seal it? Nobody talks about which model. Like the first interaction I had with you, I was like, there's a Best Buy Insignia 14 cubic chest freezer. And you're like, well, it's got a metal interior. It's going to rust like nobody's business. And I'm like, that's probably why it's still available. It's like,
right.
And so then you're like, look for ones that are painted inside because they're more durable.
Right.
And cool. Well, thank you, John. Well,
all right.
Have a good evening, and
okay, you too.
Touch.
You started the cold plunge chest freezer cold plunge group,
You got it?
and you've been doing this since 2013, 14?
I started Wim Hof in about 2013,
Uh-huh.
2014, and so I've been doing cold water immersions since then.
Okay.
Found it very difficult to find cold water in Texas, Central Texas,
Yeah.
and converted a chest freezer about 3 years ago.
Okay.
And so I went through a lot of trials and tribulations for that, and after discovering a lot of things, started a Facebook group. We've been helping other people convert chest freezers to solve some of their problems and preempt a lot of the common mistakes. So we've got about 3,000 people on the Facebook group in about 82 different countries, and it's been an awesome process. But ended up writing a book. There's all of these things evolved over the years.
So one last thing I want to mention, you want to cover your chest freezer. Obviously this freezer here is exposed to some of the elements. When we get rain in Austin, it typically is a pretty hard downpour. Some people find custom barbecue covers that are pretty good. For me, the best thing was to get a 12-foot tarp. You can get this at Lowe's or Home Depot, and it's like I think it's the 10 mil version. So one of these is like maybe 35, 40 bucks. They're super, super durable. They're basically essentially waterproof. And I have also a couple weather boxes that I picked up. The first Inkbird timer that I bought, I left uncovered, and I left it without a tarp, and the timer actually melted on the deck here. So I keep this white box here. This tarp folds over the top of everything. I haven't had any issues. This is something to keep in mind if you have your chest freezer and it's out in the exposure of the elements. All right, so we're about 10 minutes in. I'm gonna dunk my head. I'm definitely getting cold. So head dunk is just, it's priceless. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it really helps you how to make your own chest freezer cold plunge. Highly recommended. I think this is one of the biggest investments you can make in your overall health. The athletic recovery, the longevity benefits, the nervous system training. I've been tracking also my blood sugar and have noticed that my blood sugar will drop and it'll really normalize after I cold plunge. There's limited data on that so far, but it is interesting to see just all the physiological effects that happen when you cold plunge. So for me, the biggest thing I noticed is that my sleep is much deeper. It feels much more restful. So if you like this video, thanks so much for watching. Click that like button, drop a comment below. Let me know what you think about the content and how to help you make a chest freezer, cold plunge, and hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching.